On this week's episode of Talk Your Exposure, we were joined by Wes Brown, who's a former G League scout for the Texas Legends and UFT Blues. He's currently the owner of the Monday Morning Scouting Report, where he gives us feedback on all the top Canadian talent. Tune into Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and wherever you find your podcast from, and continue to support the Talk Your Exposure podcast. Welcome to another edition of Talk Your Exposure. We are here today with a very special guest, somebody that's been around the city for quite some time, somebody that I've tried to get on the show for a minute now. Honestly, I've seen him around for about 5-6 years already. I've been keeping up with him a little bit, just trying to see what he's been able to do with the city and how he's been able to try to put kids on notice. We got in the building today, Wes Brown. How you doing today, man?
Good, man. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for giving us some time. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. We're gonna talk about a lot of good things. But in particular, first, how we always start off the show, we start off with a game called Underrated, Overrated. Pretty much how this game works, you kind of just give us a very brief statement of why you feel like certain things are underrated or overrated based on your knowledge of this. So first one that we're going to ask is Duke versus North Carolina rivalry. Is that overrated or underrated?
No, I think it's properly rated. Can I say that?
You can say that.
I mean, it's huge. Look, they bill it as like the number one, rivalry in sports. I mean, it's not really that, but it is a great rivalry. It's fun to watch. Like, honestly, lately it's taken a bit of a hit. I don't think the level of talent that those teams have had has been, up to par to what they've traditionally had when, both teams won national championships in the last, 10 to 30 years. But a great rivalry nonetheless. If I have to pick, I'll say overrated because I don't think it's the best rivalry in sports. I mean, it's college, right? I don't think as a college, any college rivalry could be the best. I think you have to look to the pros. I mean, tonight we have the Yankees against the Red Sox, right? I mean, not to bet, let's be honest, like that's a tradition. So I would say if I have to, overrated, but I love it, and those are great games to watch.
You can plead the fifth on this one, but the Jane Finch tournament.
Overrated or underrated? I love the Finch tournament. It can't get any better than the Jane and Finch tournament. And I mean, for me, the Jane and Finch is underrated. For me, finding hidden gems is the reason, like, people know me as the guy in the gym. Like, the reason I'm doing that is to find hidden gems, is to find a random kid that, didn't get like the proper exposure,
right.
and hadn't been talked about or picked up by one of the AAU teams. And the fun in it for me is finding that kid in the corner gym, sitting there by myself, like seeing a kid that, clearly really knows how to play.
No, for sure.
So I love it. And I found tons of talent, tons of young players this year. I had a great time. I love it every year. It's one of my favorites. So underrated. I love Jane and Finch tournament.
Well, I'm glad you touched up on that and found a lot of hidden gems, because I want to know, is this overrated, underrated Canadian basketball?
Oh, we're still underrated. We're still nowhere near where we need to be in terms of probably like the funding and the exposure on a national level. I mean, basketball is huge now, but Canada basketball like should be the standard that every kid probably aspires to, stuff like that. And then, in terms of recruitment on my side, the coaches still don't recruit Canada to the level that they should.
Yeah.
And I thought when I started my service, like, hey, if I become the guy in Canada, every team will want my service and every team should get it. Obviously now I have information of players that they don't have, right. But a lot of them are just trying to get the top guys in the States. And I still think most teams don't come and recruit here, and it's a great opportunity to differentiate yourself. It's right over the border. I mean, the problem, I don't know if they realize how close it is. But yeah, it's still underrated at this point, and we need to still all continue to do our part and make it grow. And I think it's become really good. Like, every kid grows up wanting to play basketball, I think, now, rather than hockey.
I agree with you on that one too. Sorry to cut you off, but one thing in particular is the Raptors winning the championship changed everything for Canada. The way that Canadians looked at basketball here. Before, it was obviously the hockey country, and everybody looked at Canada as kind of weak and kind of, not really working hard and whatnot. But now, honestly, your Raptors win a championship. You have all these NBA players that are coming from Canada: Andrew Wiggins, Shea Gildress, Nikhil, et cetera, Ken Birch, Chris Boucher. You have all these guys out there that are making a name for themselves, and people are like, "Oh, okay, maybe Canada really is up to something." So I'm hoping that we can get that to be a lot more, overrated one point of time, because I hope that we can get to the level of where the USA is too. So do you agree with that, or do you think that that's like a hit or miss?
Yeah, I mean, we got to win, to get on that level, we got to win. So, we have to put it together. We need everyone to buy in, which I think will happen at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said with the Raptors, it's a trickle down effect. When it happens at the top, suddenly we don't have that like little brother feel anymore. We're actually trying to win, and we believe that we can win, whether it's the Raptors or high school kids or playing Canada versus USA in under 19s or 16s, whatever it is.
For sure. Last one I got for you for overrated, underrated. We started off with a rivalry. Now I got another rivalry for you. The LA Lakers, Boston Celtics.
Oh, that's the best of basketball, I would say. And like, we haven't had anything really since then, I don't think, since the Lakers playing the Celtics in the finals. I mean, that was incredible. And you have, Kobe and Gasol against Pierce and Ray Allen and Garnett. I mean, that was great, renewal of the rivalry. So I have to say underrated, because I love that rivalry.
Fair enough. I want to ask you, though, I want to start off with this question. With the NBA season starting their preseason this week, who are some teams that you're excited to watch this year?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the Raptors do, especially without Pascal. I don't know how long he's going to be out for. I think it was 5 months with his shoulder. I don't know how much of that has passed so far. It'll be interesting to see Scotty Barnes, obviously, how well he does. He looked pretty good last night. He finds a way to impact the game on both ends. He's really, really good defensively. And, usually they bill these guys as that. And since I'm the one kind of doing the work and focusing on them specifically, usually it's not real. But this time it is. He's going to be a defensive nightmare. And offensively, he shot it really confidently and drained a shot, and he's going to be good. So definitely the Raptors. It'll be interesting to see how the Lakers mesh. This is the first time that Westbrook has had a guy who really makes others better, a pass first type guy like LeBron. Durant obviously does that, but not to the level that LeBron does as a facilitator. And Westbrook can play his natural role, which is scorer. And it'll be interesting to see if he can be more efficient, because that's been his issue in the past, having to be a main guy and not really understanding where his spots are. Mm-hmm. Whereas now, he gets defense closing out on him, and he gets lanes because they're so focused on LeBron. So that'll be a really interesting one to watch. And then, of course, I got to say my guy Suggs on Orlando, who's my favorite prospect in the draft. So I'm really looking forward to them. He didn't have a great game last night. He hit a really deep three. Did okay. I think they beat the Celtics. I'm not really sure. I think it was a close game. Oh no, they lost by one. Maybe they lost by one. But that's another team I'm really looking forward to see.
Fair enough. What are your thoughts on the teams stacking up their team to get all-star type caliber teams? Do you like that? Do you think that it's kind of bad for basketball? Do you think it's good for basketball? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think it's bad. And, my friends that aren't basketball people will like give me flack for that kind of stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's more of a challenge. I'm not there yet, but I plan on running a team one day, and I'm looking forward to beating those teams. And you can always do it by putting a team together that fits. Stacking, there's only one ball, right? So stacking superstar talent doesn't necessarily work unless they play together. And 99% of players aren't like that. Kyrie Irving suddenly makes it difficult for Brooklyn because he's really just a scorer. So now you need someone moving the ball and making others better and getting them in their spots and stuff. I and then the Raptors won with a team of not superstars, and so did the Mavericks with just Nowitzki, right? You have one ball, get it to the right guy, and let them do their thing, and everyone else plays their role and understands who the guy is. And sometimes that works better than having 3 stars. So it's all about the fit, and people don't really understand how important that is. How you have to manage how many touches each guy gets, and if you go down the court 10 times and you haven't touched the ball on offense, chances are you're not gonna play hard on D, right? So it's about managing. Oh, there's so much to manage. So it doesn't bother me one bit. It's more of a challenge. I can't wait to build a team, man, and kick those teams' ass.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it, because honestly, it's crazy though, because Steve Nash got a lot of slack when in Brooklyn in particular. You know, people were saying that. I think Kyrie came out last year and said, we don't need a coach to coach us. We don't need Steve Nash. You know, with LeBron James being such a, you know, a very, very big guy in the sense of like, people give him the speculation to say that he is the mantra of coaches. He's the coach, he's the general manager, he's the player, he's everything. How do you feel that coaches are able to get more out of their players when they don't respect them or come out to the public and say, hey, I don't really mesh with you. I don't need you, Steve Nash. I don't need you, Coach Vogel. I don't need you, you know, Coach whatever. You know what I mean? How do you feel that impacts a team, whether it's negatively or positively?
Oh, it's obviously negative. I mean, I would try to avoid those types of players. I mean, Kyrie Irving, for all the talent he has, is too difficult to deal with. You know, so you need to be a unified unit to win. You need to have the respect of your players, and I think that was probably a misquote. Like, I don't think he thinks negatively of Steve Nash, but he thinks too highly of himself for sure. And again, you know, everyone has to mesh. Everyone has to do their part. Everyone has to have respect, and that's when it works, when everybody stays in their lane and does their part. You know, if Kyle Lowry started taking Kawhi Leonard shots, suddenly he's outside of his lane. You know, when Kyrie Irving starts talking about coaches, he's out of his lane. So everybody has to, and it's very hard, and you have to do it consistently. But those things ruin team chemistry and things like that.
No, I agree completely, and you hit it right on the nose with that. But I want to get back to Canada for 1 second, though. You know, obviously, as we talked about earlier, basketball in Canada is evolving, especially at the prep level, with more and more prep teams coming out of the woodworks. Do you think that these schools help confidence, or do you think that this actually negatively affects their thought process and confidence?
Confidence of the players, or what do you
mean? like there's so many teams now, like you got 3 different Orangeville teams, you got, you know, 3 George Harris teams, you got Inspire and Great Lakes, and all those have those different little schools from, you know, in that United Scholastic area. You have Vaughan that's now, or Houdain Prep. You have, you know, TBA. You have, you know, Central Tech. Like, there's so many schools out there now that are just becoming prep. When you look at the United States, there's so many United States schools that have prep next to the name as well. But, you know, obviously some of them are like not really the greatest prep out there. There's only like maybe about 10 prep schools in the States that are actually like top tier. Do you think that's kind of how we're leading towards here in Toronto, here in Canada as well? Or do you think that having all of these prep schools that are now in Toronto are actually beneficial for the game?
Well, we'll have to see. You know, the thing is with COVID, there may not be a high school season, right? So everybody, I'm sure, was realizing, hey, there's a lot of talent in my area. And, you know, coaches wanted to get back to coaching and building a team probably. And every kid out there wants to play and make sure that they play. So I'm sure everyone was chomping at the bit and make sure they get on a prep team, because there may not be high school. So, look, I don't have much of a thought yet until we see kind of how the season goes and how it develops. It'll be interesting. Like, I think it's a little saturated. I mean, there's so many now, and I'm not sure the level of talent will be there across the board. But I think it will play itself out, and, you know, good teams will survive, and teams that, you know, can't put out the talent or can't, you know, find players will struggle and eventually fold. So I think it'll always get weeded out over time. There's a lot, but I mean, it doesn't bother me. For me, it's always just about finding the talent. So
yeah,
the more the merrier. I mean, if there's teams popping up in every little crevice, it just means it's another team for me to see and potentially find a stud. So it doesn't really bother me.
For sure. No, I like that. I like that positive positive answer. To be honest with you, there's a lot of negative ones. So to be able to hear something positive, some positive reinforcement is definitely great to hear, especially when you hear so much negative stuff about the Canadian basketball game and, prep schools and stuff like that. And you kind of hear all that stuff all the time. So to be able to hear some positive stuff, thank you. I need to hear that. I want to ask you though, you've been all around the world and countries, scouting some of the best talent, checking to see what's out there and making it fun. Can you share a funny story with us during one of these scouting trips?
A funny story.
A funny or embarrassing story.
Try
to lighten up the mood a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, embarrassing. I mean, me, when I worked for the Texas Legends, and I mean, embarrassing would be me telling them that my number one pick in the draft would be Malik Monk. I guess that would be embarrassing. I mean, my stories are all going to be basketball related. I mean, we've gone out and had our fun nights wherever we've been, but luckily I haven't made enough of a fool of myself to recall a moment right now. But I mean, that was one, me saying, these types of things confidently. And it was just kind of a funny situation because you had like the whole Dallas front office and me sitting there totally confidently telling them who they should take, That's awesome. So that was probably a little embarrassing in time.
I can only imagine right now. And I know me, when I get embarrassed, when I'm in an embarrassed moment, my whole face turns red. I'm like, red to like blushing all over the place. So I couldn't imagine being in your shoes at that moment of time, but definitely it all works out in the end, definitely all works out in the end. Yeah. You've been around, scout as a scout wow. You've been around as a scout for quite some time now. You scouted for UFT, G League, and the NCAA. Can you talk to us about the similarities that these kids lack while you're scouting? And have you ever went to scout one person but ended up loving someone else?
Someone else? Yeah, that happens like weekly. That happens like literally weekly. You hear of a name, you go see a kid, and they're probably the one chucking bad shots. And then you find someone that, again, knows how to play. I mean, KHTP is my favorite thing to write on our report, knows how to play, because there's not that many guys. That's the one thing that I look for at all levels, that translates to all levels. Knowing how to play, knowing your role, accepting it, playing hard no matter what. What happens is when you're projecting from any level, everybody wants to be the scorer, right? So you can be the 30-point scorer in grade 9, maybe you're 20 in grade 10. And by the time you get to a high level, you're just a role guy, right? So you always got to find a way to impact the game and make winning plays, no matter what it is, And so the guys, with that mentality, the guys who need the ball tend to fail. And the guys who know how to play, whether or not they have, because there's just such a small percentage of guys that have the ball in their hands, right? There's one ball, there's 10 players. So all things being equal, you're touching it 10% of the time, right? So how are you going to help me win when you're not touching it? So that's the thing you look for at all levels is winners. And those are the things that translate. And my two number one things are IQ and motor. Those are the two things I look for more than anything, because I know IQ translates and I know motor translates. If you can process the game and you play hard, you're going to find a way to succeed, and then you're looking for a certain skill level and stuff. But those are the things that translate to all levels, that I've seen at all levels succeed. And, after, like you said, like I've seen every level of basketball now, and I feel pretty comfortable about how the levels progress. And, when I put my neck on the line for a player, I have to feel pretty confidently that, again, they're going to succeed, whether they're giving a starting role or whether they're a bench player. Great example, Gino Marie, player from Oregon last year, Canadian kid from Toronto area, from Nextdale. He's on the Mavs. I put my neck out for that kid because he moves really well without the ball. He's super aggressive. He's got great instincts. He's willing to do whatever's necessary on defense, switch on any position. He's tough. And I know when he's out there, whether or not he touches the ball, he's going to make shit happen. So So that's a great example of a guy that, you know, would translate playing anywhere, just like he did from Rutgers to Oregon, and he's going to do again from Oregon to the NBA, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I love that you talk about that, because as you know, I coach an AU program, and a lot of things that we try to preach to our kids all the time is you never know who's watching who, but don't allow an opportunity to be taken away from you because they're out there looking for somebody else. Seize that opportunity, like I mentioned earlier. Take that opportunity, and just because they're not coming for you doesn't mean they might not like you. So if you catch a body, if you dunk on somebody hard, if you have that motor like you talked about earlier, if you make a winning play, you take a charge with 3 seconds left to go in the game, you get a block, you get a rebound, whatever it might be, but you have 0 points, coaches are or scouts are gonna look at that more than they're gonna look at the guy who had 20 points and 9 turnovers. Because at the end of the day, if you could shoot the ball and just do the little things and you get 6 points, but get that winning steal or that winning charge or that winning block or whatever it might be, coaches and scouts look for that a lot more than the guy who scores 20, shoots, 10 for 35 from the field with 9 turnovers and doesn't win. So I always tell my kids all the time, I say, how are you guys going to separate yourself from everybody out there right now that is that is trying to make where you guys are trying to make as well? Well, here's some ways. Take charges. Not many people out there really care to take charges. Well, get a block. Not many people understand how to block the shot properly. Play hard defense. Work hard at all given times. Like if you guys do those little things, you guys will find something. And the fact that you kind of just talked about that right now, being somebody that where you are with your knowledge and your basketball career as a scout and what you've been through, to say that, I'm not far away. I'm not far away. So I appreciate that.
People think we're looking for scorers and we're not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I don't care about scorers at all. 0. I mean, if you're a scorer, but you take bad shots, at some point it's gonna balance out. And we're also not stupid that if I go to a game and I see you hit 6 step back 3, the next game you're hitting probably 0. So we understand, it's a game of percentages, right? I mean, a spot up 3 on a kick out is a way better shot than a self-created 3 off the bounce. So you're just constantly playing those games in your head, trying to figure out, are they efficient, and can they play this same style at the next level?
My next question for you is obviously everybody has a different type of recruiting style, or every team looking for something different throughout each year. Can you tell me how someone is considered to be the one, based on just in general, the chosen one, the one for your team? And when you got the one, did they end up being a bust, or did they actually end up being what you guys expected them to be?
Like in terms of helping, for example, like an NCAA team recruit a specific kid?
Yeah, like more so like people get talked about in the media all the time, like whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on the newspaper, or you go watch them play and you're looking for somebody specific from your team for what you guys need. Let's take UFT for example, and you guys are looking for somebody specific. When you find that one guy and you go back to your coach, I think I found the one. I think I found that one, the one that's going to help change the program or whatever it's going to be. When you get him, does he end up being a bust, or is he what he lives up to? And also, have you ever found, the one to change the program, whatever program you were in?
Well, I mean, I try to do that from my scouting service for, a number of teams, obviously, for everyone. Try to, they'd say, hey, Wes, we need a big in 22, who's the guy, and how do you figure it out? Well, look, the teams recruit a lot of guys, I'm sure. I tell them who I think is the best option for it. And it's worked out a lot. I mean, I've been involved with some really high level guys recently that are going to be NBA prospects that could get drafted this year that are in college. I can vouch. The problem is I'm never the one that's making the decision. But this is where the scouting comes in. I mean, when I suggest kids, I think I'm right. And I think for the most part, I've been right.
Yeah.
So how do you know? You have to understand the style that they play and the role that this kid will play and whether he gets the opportunity or not. Will he fight through not having it? Will he fight through a role to become the stud? You just have to assess their character and their talent and everything like that. And a lot of it is luck, is circumstance, being in the right situation, being in the right place, having people that they trust in their corner, like the coaches. So there's a lot of factors that come down to it, but a few of the guys recently have really hit. Still waiting to see if one kid will hit that I think is going to be a stud at a high major school. But I play a small part in that kind of stuff. But generally, I think you're just being a scout, trying to assess if you think that they'll succeed and why, and you tell them, and then they make their own calls.
Fair enough. Obviously, you being a scout, you've been around for a while. Talk to us about your time as a scout in the G League.
Yeah, it started again at that dinner, really, where I became close with Dallas. They hired me. They hired me on that trip. Actually, it was in Virginia for the year. They wouldn't sign my visa, unfortunately. So I went around to the events in the States. I mean, that was probably the coolest experience of my life, like being at the NBA Combine and stuff, and having my face on a lanyard. It was fun. It was a great intro into the industry and meeting more people and stuff. I became really close with those guys. We did a lot of scouting for the G League draft and random players. I built a friendship with a few of my best friends. Some of them are my clients now with different NBA teams. I was based on the East Coast. I was based in Toronto, and I would go to games all over the East. So I think I probably saw every team throughout that year. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I got to sit on the court and watch the games from there. And, again, it was my first experience as with my media passes and everything like that as a big timer, and again, it was fun because, just like I talked about, you're trying to find hidden gems. And when you're looking at a guy from the G League to the NBA, I remember there's a guy, Jalen Jones, who took like 40 shots, maybe scored 45 points, but he took like 40 shots, and I wanted to say, hey, Jalen Jones, you think anybody cares that you could score here? When you go to the NBA, you think you're going to be the one with the ball in your hand scoring? You got to stand in the corner, make one of two or two of three spot-up opportunities that you're going to get in the game, and that's it. You got to defend your ass off and play hard and find a way to stay on the floor. You're not going to be there scoring, and that's what a lot of guys don't understand. And when you find the guys that do, like a Yuta Watanabe type, then you really have something, because those types of guys can fit with a team, can make good plays, can play within the offense, don't need the ball, will still defend really hard and find a way to make impact plays, So that was a lot of fun, finding the hidden gem. And honestly, like what ended up happening was, since they wouldn't sign my visa, I had to find a way to provide value somehow. And I didn't think it was going anywhere, and started realizing through trial and error that people wanted information on Canadian high school kids. And I just kind of ran with it, because that's what people should, like, scouts show that they had interest in.
That's completely fair. I know you mentioned earlier that you were part of the events and stuff like that. But what was it like, being around guys that have played or coached in the NBA on a day-to-day basis, at least have been in communication or whatever it was, whether it was, through WhatsApp or whether it was actually in person, or what was it like just being around those guys?
Yeah, I mean, at first it's intimidating, right? You think that they know something that you don't. So at first I was pretty intimidated, but I always had this, I don't know if swagger is the word, but belief in myself. And so after a little bit, I think I had that confidence. And I mean, I surely showed it with the Dallas guys. It's honestly really cool. I mean, I'm living out my dreams right now. Being at those events was the beginning of it. And still, obviously I go to, events in the States, whatever it is, and NBA Academy stuff, Basketball Without Borders, where, there's tons of scouts, and, I'm just one of them now. But it's great. I mean, Drake says, like when your idols become your rivals or something like that, like that's what it's becoming, right? You know, so I mean, they're my clients right now, but I mean, for the future, I hope to be competing with all of them. But it's really cool. I mean, it's a dream come true. Yeah.
Hey man, and you kind of hit up on the nose. You said, you know, you were able to start what you want to do now, and you just started a company recently called Monday Morning Scouting Report. If I'm not mistaken, you started just last year during the pandemic. What inspired
that's my
you?
company. That's been my company since the beginning.
Okay.
People just know me as Wes Brown. People just know me as Wes Brown because I'm a one-man show. But the Monday Morning Scouting Report is my company from the start. Yeah.
Okay, so talk to us about that. Talk to us about how that became about. Talk to us about, obviously you kind of brushed up on it a little bit earlier when you said what kind of got you into scouting and what brings you to being a scout and stuff like that. But what made you want to start your own company to, you know, get around kids as much as you do and just help kids, help people?
So when I was with Dallas, I would still send out these weekly reports on college guys. Well, I started really on the later stages when I knew that I was going to be leaving and didn't see a long-term fit there. And so what happened was I would just send out reports on college guys, on high school kids I would go see. I mean, you know, I didn't really know what I was doing. I would just send out content every week. And so what ended up happening was people wanted to know about Canadian high school kids. I would be a pest and just send these reports every Monday morning. And calling it the Monday Morning Scouting Report was a way to be a pest without being a pest, aka Monday morning you're getting a report.
Yeah.
And so, you know, guys, that helped me build relationships and kind of cement my work ethic that like I'm kind of known for now. Consistently, being in the gym and all that stuff. So I kind of fell into it. Just by continuing to persevere and figure out a way because I knew this was what I wanted to do and probably the only thing I'd be good at. So I started doing it and from going to my first gym and meeting the coach to now, I mean, it's been kind of like a blur. You just keep going and doing the same stuff. And now that I've built, relationships with pretty much every team everywhere, and I've built close relationships with a lot of the kids here and coaches and stuff. My thing is I want to run an NBA team, but I'm going to try to help as many people as I can along the way while I get there. So, a lot of the times I help coaches and kids and stuff like that without getting a cent. But it feels good. And it's great to be able to make an impact and to help kids, and whatever I can do to help, I'm down for, I mean, I'm not trying to do these 2-hour drives anymore just to see one kid and, help them find a school. But yeah, no, it's great to be able to make an impact while doing what I love. So I honestly fell into all of it. It's just built.
Fair enough. I got one more question for you before we get to our quick hitters to end the show. But I want to ask you, who are some notable people that you've been able to help throughout your time as a scout or during your business?
I don't really want to touch on the exact guys that have that I've helped get to certain schools and stuff like that. There's been a lot of kids that are just under the radar that, and it's nice from my position that all it takes is a phone call or a text, to help a certain kid. I mean, there's been people that have helped me a lot more than I've helped people. I mean, there's a few mentors of mine. Jim Kelly, who was the assistant GM of the Raps and is now a scout with Dallas, is my best buddy in the industry. And he was the guy that gave me a shot, that listened to me in the beginning. So him, those Dallas guys, I mean, I don't think I've made as much of an impact on anyone as these guys have on me, and giving me a shot and, kind of welcoming me with open arms and making me see Luca Desta, another guy who just got a big job with the Utah Jazz. He's been great. Matt Morales, another one of my boys who was the assistant GM of the Legends team and now runs the Clippers G League. He's he's the best scout. He's fantastic. A lot of guys there. And then some guys here that I've become really close with, like Dave DeVero, who's like, kind of a big brother to me here. I'm in Canada. So a lot of people that have helped me, but I don't know if I've had that same impact on any kids, but I have helped guys get to schools, but I don't need to take credit for it.
Like someone said to me yesterday, it takes a village to build somebody. It takes a village to help people. You know what I mean? So you're definitely part of that village for these kids, and you're definitely part of that village for those pros, and just trying to help anybody get better and try to have a better life for themselves. And shout out to you on that one, man, because honestly, not many people really want to be in your shoes and really understand what goes into being in your shoes to begin with. So to be able to kind of help with many people you've been able to help, and really just be where you go and drive many kilometers and many miles to be able to find the next hidden gems, and spend a lot of time, because I've seen you at that tournament from 9 o'clock in the morning all the way till 9 o'clock at night sometimes, just waiting to see what you could find. So for people to be able to kind of see, or to be people that know you and know what you go through on a regular basis, man, it's honestly really inspiring to see you do that, and you do put in a lot of hard work too. So shout out to you on that one. Kudos to you for that. But I want to get some quick hitters to end off the show. First one I want to ask you is, if you were to have, I don't know if you're married right now, but I'm going to ask you a hypothetical one. If you were to have a proposal and you had any band or any singer or any rapper to come and be there and present at your proposal, who would that be?
Present? Like, what are they rapping for me in the background?
They're rapping, they could be singing, it could be a band, whatever you want it to be, a mariachi band maybe.
No, I would say Drake, but it's like too easily accessible. Like, what is he like one, what do you call it? Like one strand away. I mean, I know some people that are like tied close enough with him that it's like, I don't know how difficult. I mean, it would be difficult, but
yeah,
it's Toronto, I mean, to us, it's not the same thing as to everywhere else. So for that reason, I would say Kanye.
Ooh, so you're picking what is it, Dada or whatever, instead of Certified Lover Boy?
Well, Kanye was one of my idols growing up. And probably if not for Kanye, I wouldn't have had the irrational belief that I could be an NBA scout, that I could be an NBA GM, all that stuff. Don't listen to what anybody tells you and just believe, keep your head down, work, and you'll figure it out, So Kanye's kind of like swagger really helped me. So Kanye being there would be pretty sick.
Awesome. That'd be great. If you had a dinner party and you had 5 empty seats, dead or alive, who would you bring to that dinner party and why?
My parents.
Okay.
My Zadie, who was a genius business person and like the greatest, like lived for everyone else rather than himself. Did everything for everyone. So he set a great example for me to try to help people.
Shout out Zadie. Shout out Zadie.
Shout out Zadie. Yeah, I mean, we're speaking the same language here. Sylvester Stallone, Rocky. My number one idol in life, more than Kanye and everyone, because the inspiration and I don't know. I mean, these guys, Kanye and Rocky, are ideas that believed in themselves and didn't really care what anybody said or thought, and found a way to make it happen. And Rocky is just super inspirational, and anybody that knows me outside of basketball, like when you say like, hey, when I quote a movie or talk about movies or anything, like it's always Rocky.
Yeah.
And the last one, if it was someone like, I got to pick someone that I don't know, otherwise I would say Jim, who I call Uncle Jim now. Like, think what basketball person would I want there? It's a good question. I don't know about the last one. I'll have to think. I'm going to say Jim for now.
Sounds good. If you could sit in a gym, speaking of gym, but if you could sit in a gym and watch one basketball player or one athlete work out, and you could you had the privilege of getting a whole scouting report on one basketball player, whether it's NBA, whether it's WNBA, whether it was college, university, high school, whatever it is. If you had the opportunity to be able to sit and scout one player for a whole day through their workout, who would it be?
Jalen Suggs would be the obvious answer here.
Okay.
just
Why Jalen?
because.
What? Yeah, I want to say why Jalen?
Well, the impact he has on the game, again, with or without the ball, to think the game is so impressive. And I really put my neck on the line with that kid. So to get to see him live and kind of see, the physical tools, the personality, all that kind of stuff, and get a feel for it would really help. The same way it would with any prospect. But I mean, I love doing that for prospects, so
Yeah.
At this point, like I would say the guy ranked number 1 on ESPN or whatever on the NBA draft.net, that's supposed to be the number 1 pick. Like that would be a great guy to see, any of them, them. Like, that's the fun in it for me. Like seeing these guys and figuring out, like in my reports, usually it comes down to one sentence, who they are and why or why not, I like them or don't like them. So, and usually the guys that I love are sleepers, not those top guys. But I'll give you Jalen Suggs for sake of the question.
Fair enough. I got 2 more here for you, and I got one that's actually related to our religion. Favorite Jewish holiday?
Favorite Jewish holiday? I mean, you get to on all of them. You get to avoid working and hang out with your friends. Pretty good. It can't be Yom Kippur because we don't eat, and it's supposed to be sad.
Yeah.
I'll say Hanukkah. You get money. You usually get money or candy or something.
Can't go wrong with Hanukkah. You can't go wrong with Hanukkah. The final question I want to ask you before we conclude the show. I want to ask you, who is somebody that you would like to see on Talk Your Exposure? But here's the kicker, though. You have to help us get them on the show.
Oh, I have to help you get them on. Who should be on it? I have to think of who's willing to do these things.
Fair enough.
Do you get players on or coaches or what?
We've had everything, to be honest with you. We've had broadcasters, we've had players, we've had coaches, we've had anybody that has knowledge, to be honest with you. We just want people to be able to give back to, like I mentioned to you as well. This podcast actually started through the pandemic, just to kind of give kids back some type of normalcy and kind of hear from different athletes and different people and different, coaches that understand the game of basketball and kind of know how to give back. So these kids are able to kind of get their basketball feel back again, because for a long period of time we didn't get basketball until this past July. So this podcast actually started because of the fact that I wanted them to kind of still have their feel for basketball and kind of hear different stories and how to stay motivated really throughout a pandemic and just how to complete their goals.
Yeah, it's hard, right? It was hard for everyone, let alone like the kids, with no basketball going on. I have to think of who. I don't want to put anyone on the spot here and get them in trouble.
Fair enough. We'll come back to that. I want to thank you for your time. You've definitely give back a lot of knowledge, and anybody that knows you in the city of Toronto knows how hard you work. You are definitely somebody that we had to have on this podcast. I was excited to get you on. I know we've had a couple complications, which has been on me. So I'm just very thankful you've been able to hear from you and hear your story and be able to hear what you've kind of been able to do for these kids and for your program, for your business as well. So honestly, we wish you nothing but the best. But before we get going, we ask all of our guests to give their social media so our followers can give them a follow. And also, if you have any shout outs you want to give out before we conclude, it's all you.
Yeah, I mean, you can check out my website, nbaprospects.com. Very easy. My Instagram is Wes B. Brown, and my Twitter is Wes Blair Brown, WESBLAIR, and Brown like the color.
You have any shout outs you want to give to anybody?
Shout out you for doing this. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. One more time, we want to thank you again for your time. We hope everybody tunes into this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you find your podcast from. Tune in, because this one is definitely a good one with a lot of knowledge and somebody that has known the game of basketball for quite some time now. So we're very thankful and, again, happy to be able to have you on this podcast. And, again, we wish you nothing but the best moving forward and hope to be able to talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.